Good morning, Joanne. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule and getting involved in our podcast this week. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us all a bit about what you do?
Yep. Hi Scott, it's lovely to be here this morning. My name is Joanne Cole and I am the founder of BrokerIQ Solutions. BrokerIQ Solutions are a client experience platform built specifically for advisors and clients in the protection and insurance industry. We are transforming how advisors engage with clients by improving communication, strengthening compliance, and streamlining the post-sale journey so clients stay informed, protected, and connected long after an insurance policy is sold.
Awesome. And so what was it that led you to, come up with that idea? How was the idea born, or what was the catalyst for it?
It was very organic. I actually am a qualified teacher, Scott. Some people know that, some people don't know that about me. I taught for over 16, 17 years in a large primary school here in Northern Ireland. But very early in even my teaching career, I had a real passion for data and the data that we held for children. So this is a bit of a long-winded story.
Sure.
How we could use that data for the greater good of that child and for the situations and circumstances that they came from. So I became very involved in data analysis and digital transformation. I did that for many, many years, and then I got married and had my first baby and needed a mortgage. So we started down that mortgage application route. I worked with the local advisor here in Northern Ireland who's absolutely fantastic. And it was then that I was given the opportunity to use my experience with data, digital transformation to work in a local mortgage advisor's office. And it was there that I realized there was so much data. I also fell massively in love with the protection industry, to be honest, and it probably was for the love of the advisor that he had for protection and the good that could come out of that. People don't often see that, but when you're sitting in their shoes and people are in their most horrendous situations, when you can give a little bit of light or ease some burdens and do your best for that family, then you really see when that comes to light. But what I did realize was that there wasn't systems out there to help either the advisor or the client. So for us as clients of protection, it was just really obscure. It was all over the place. Nobody really knew what they were insured for, sometimes paying really big premiums. And for the advisor, they had no tools or systems to help their clients. And then that sort of led to where we are today with a platform that is now in use in hundreds of advisors and thousands of clients' hands.
Fantastic. So who would be your ideal customer or client for BrokerIQ then? Is it the advisor or the broker?
Yeah, well, they're the paying clients. Clients don't pay for it. The end user doesn't pay for the system. Yeah, it would be advisors. So I suppose over the last number of years, we've gone out really into proof of concept, really early out with a very basic piece of technology that we built. It's important to note that my brother is my co-founder. He was a software developer. So as I was getting the bursts of inspiration and looking at the gaps in this industry from my own experience in data and systems, he was building out a piece of software that we were able to then take to market. So over the last number of years, yes, it has been mortgage advisors, insurance advisors, and they have just been taking us in for all of the reasons that we've talked about. And I suppose over the last 9 to 12 months, we've really been working with large enterprises. So you'll find there's large insurance companies who have all of these advisors using their services who want to provide the technology to their end users, or large networks in the mortgage space where you might have thousands of advisors, and also software providers. So we've just integrated and partnered with a large software company called iPipeline in the UK, and they're actually an American-based company, and they provide protection services to over 17,000 advisors.
Cool. So that's real leverage then for you. You can get a deal with one enterprise and then that filters out to 17,000. So you really have an impact on the market then.
Well, that is our aim. That's where we are now, is those we started off small with the small advisors. The aim is to get into as many networks and large enterprises as possible so that we can get our system out to, I suppose, getting to scale. We are on the journey to scale, and that's how we get to scale. We are an invested company, and we can't just go and sort of one advisor here and one advisor there. And that's been really our proof of concept over the last number of years. Now we're getting into those enterprise clients and trying to get out there to get out to scale.
Fantastic. And so how long has BrokerIQ been in existence then?
Suppose from its very early days, from when I first started, it was actually a platform called Review It, because it was about policies, it was about reviewing policies, about transparency. That's from about 2019 possibly. And then we sort of change brands. We have another new going to say makeover coming very imminently
Okay.
in the coming weeks.
Exciting.
So it will evolve again, because I suppose your whole message, your whole look, your feel coming from a
Yes.
startup changes over a period
Yeah.
of time. And now especially going out into enterprises, there's a different look, there's a different feel to what that looks like.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know at the start. So it's just ever evolving.
Absolutely. And that's a very
So,
good saying.
so
You
since
don't
so
know.
since 2019, then what would you say has been your biggest learning since you've been a founder? It's quite a
Um,
change from the teaching background. So, what would you say has been your biggest learning?
I suppose that's, for me, I look back at the journey I've been on, and I can't even really take it in. Like, to come from where I was to now running a company, a software company, like, it's a massive leap. And I suppose that's one of the biggest lessons that I have learned, is that, you can progress. You don't have to be stuck in one place. You can
Yes.
move forward. You can change careers. It's something I'm always very keen on telling people. I know it can be very safe to stay somewhere, but there's so much opportunity out there. There's so many skills needed. Don't sit still, move forward. It's been one of my biggest lessons, is where you can come from to where you can go to. And it's not
Mhm.
easy, but
And
there
what
is a
about is there anything in business then for anybody listening you've had to learn the hard way? Anything that's like cash flow or anything like that that sort of
That's
that comes up.
perpetual. Yes. Well, like, we're a funded company, I suppose.
Mhm.
Um, s- a software company's not cheap to run, to be
Mhm.
fair. We have staff to pay. You're not always bringing in the revenue that's going to support
Sure.
that company, certainly not in the early days. So, we have raised funds. That's always a perpetual worry. It's still a perpetual worry, especially when you're as a founder. I call myself a founder first and
Sure.
foremost, before anything else. And as a founder, you lead by your vision, and you lead by your passion for what you
Mhm.
do. But you have to also keep money in the bank to make sure everybody's paid, and that is obviously, it's a major.
Yeah, you're nearly having to like sell your business over and over again to raise the money.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, we've had great funders. I'm well supported here from Clarendon Capital in Belfast. I have three fabulous female angel investors who continue to support our journey, and our lead investor is a SEIS EAS fund, VC fund out of London, who
sure.
are specifically in the insurtech space as well. But yeah, and that goes on in the early days. We were getting people to buy your vision, and see where you're going, and see the problem that you're trying to fix, and I suppose feel that problem. I think for me, when I start any pitch, to whether it's any investment pitch, it's have a think about your own protection policies and where they are, and nobody knows. So, I mean, there's
Yeah.
the first problem that you have.
I
So
mean
it's
that
very
can't.
easy to go in after that and say, well, we can fix that.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say like you call yourself a founder, right? So that tells me you've had to like assume a different identity from when you called yourself a teacher. So what have you had to learn about yourself then to go on this journey?
Suppose I've learned how determined I am, and I didn't even realize, to be fair. I think I've always been creative. I've always been a visionary, and I suppose that's even when I was teaching. I had that very much when I was in the classroom with my children, that I was teaching. That would have been very much part of the teacher that I was, but also my want to go into the data end of it. That was something that the teachers that I taught with,
Mm.
I'm sure they won't mind me saying, like, they used to dread that part of it, but
Yes.
I really wanted that. I really wanted to go into that side of education, where I was able to look at the data and the assessment, and I realized that was that analytical brain that I had, and that has really stood by me over the last number of years, where I'm able to go in and see a problem
Yes.
and get a solution for it. And I think that's what makes me a founder in that sense, is that
Yeah.
I can see problems every day, and I like to
Mm.
get solutions for them, and that's really one of my strengths, I would say, in this journey of being a founder. I carry the role as founder CEO. I don't often call myself a CEO, because I
Yes.
don't feel like I have the skills to be a CEO. I think that is evolving over time, as I'm being pushed into uncomfortable
Yeah.
circumstances and situations that I find myself in, and I have to learn. And I have a great experienced team who are experienced CEOs and
Sure.
COOs who have backed the business and who sit with me on the board, and they teach me those. But I certainly like to
But
just
you're
go on
not
my.
you're not just ready to call yourself that yet, which is interesting, isn't it? But you've got to the founder bit, quite early on, which I can only imagine is a big help for you to assume that identity and be comfortable with that.
Yeah, the finder is something I'm comfortable with. That's fine because I think, I think that is about vision. It's about solving problems,
Yeah.
and I feel comfortable with that. But there's
Yeah.
lots of things in business that you have to learn how to do, and I'm
Yeah,
still very
100%.
much learning.
And what about them? Say if somebody was going to go into business, if they're sitting listening to this and they're thinking, you know what, I'm going to leave my career and start something up. Is there any one piece of advice you would give to them?
Just go for it.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely something. I mean, sometimes I don't think I realized what I was doing, to be fair.
Yes.
And maybe that's the best way. So I'm often asked to speak to startups. I work a lot with Catalyst in Belfast and Raise Ventures. And I'm often asked to speak to startups. And for me, it's about getting that balance of not going through too many of the horror stories because you don't
Yeah.
want to put people off. Um, but also being there to support them and teaching them the realities. It's not an easy journey. It really
Yeah.
is not an easy journey. And I
You need
think
to
if I
be
had known
determined,
that,
don't you?
you have to be determined. But I also think you have to go in not knowing what you're going into face because,
Yeah.
so you have to understand it's not easy,
Yes.
but it's exceptionally rewarding.
Yeah.
And I would encourage anybody to do it and just go for it. But sometimes you're better just learning as you go and not
Yes.
knowing too much before you
It
start.
sounds familiar. So what about if what about the next 5 years for you guys then? So a new field of the brand coming imminently. What's the next 5 years look like for Broker IQ? And what do you see as the main challenges moving forward?
Well, eminently, it is the new brand, and we're very, very excited about that. I mean, I keep looking at what we have, and I designed it myself on Canva, and my brother put code to it. That is what we have sold, and we've sold it okay over the last number of
Yeah.
years. But as we go out, as I say, our next 5 year plan is we've built up a really steady enterprise pipeline. It's closing those deals down. It's going to scale,
Yeah.
We always have had ambitions for other markets as well, but it's getting into those enterprises here. And consumer duty in the UK certainly has really shaped where we are because now the insurance companies, the advisors, they have to prove that they're doing the best for their clients and that full transparency. So that's been a massive leap for us in our business. And I suppose it's taken that and taken it out to scale now to large enterprises, growing that over the next number of years.
So sounds exciting. So and it's great to see a local company, get to that point. I always like to finish on this question. If you could go back and speak to an 18-year-old Joanne, what's the one piece of advice you would give her?
Oh my goodness, it's always it's a question filled with so much, isn't it?
Yes.
I would say not to play it safe. I mean, I went into teaching and I love my time teaching. I really did, and I love children. And someday I think I will go back to that in some sense of
Sure.
the word, because I won't always be in this role. Um, I think it would be to pause, to take some time to stop and look around you and look at the world and look at your options and not just to rush into that college education at that stage. I think young people have changed anyway in this day and age. I do think they're more tuned in to life and their options and there's different career paths out there. For me, I wish I had just stopped and assessed where I was in general instead of just sort of going
Going
down,
with
I'll
the
go to
flow.
college, I'll get a job. The world is a big place and it's probably one of my it's not a regret. I don't have any regrets in life at all. I think life is what it is and it's happened
Yeah.
the way it's happened and I'm in a great place with it. But I wish I had have just taken that bit of time to stop and not follow just sort of the trends and start this journey earlier.
Yeah.
I think this journey in your 20s is a great journey to be on. When you're at my
Yes.
stage with a very young family, as we talked about, Scott,
Yeah.
and financial pressures, and you're trying to balance everything, it can be
Yes.
challenging. It can be more challenging. So I suppose, yeah, stop and look around you and make your choices wisely.
Great piece of advice, Joanne. And look, I really appreciate you coming on and being so open with us. And it sounds like a really exciting journey you're on. And I look forward to seeing the new brand and see what you guys can achieve over the next 5 years. But look, thanks again for today.
Thanks, Scott.